Well, here we are. Rafa Nadal has won the 2022 Australian Open, and now it looks like, if we just look at the record books, put it on the screen, if we just look at these numbers, Rafa Nadal is now the greatest of all time because we all agreed to it. This is the metric that we all agreed to, that whoever wins the most Grand Slams by the end of their 3 careers will be the greatest of all time. Look at this one. It's not just about winning the Australian Open. It's not just about having the slam record. It's also something that's been a knock against both Roger and Rafa because Djokovic had done it. You see Mo, Roy Emerson's done it, and Rod Laver. I've met 3 of the guys on this list. Never met Djokovic before. It's a big deal because now Rafa has won all 4 of the majors at least twice. Of course, a knock in the past on why Rafa would never be the greatest of all time was because the majority of his wins were at the French Open. Yes, that's still true, but the fact that he's won all 3 at least twice, he's won the U.S. Open more than twice, the fact that he has now done that is just makes his claim to be the greatest of all time even stronger. But of course, we always agreed that the most slams was the most important thing, and now Rafa is there. And now you start to see maybe a lot of people upset, confused, not quite understanding what I've been saying about asterisk. And we're going to look at all this. We're going to go through the whole case right here before we even hit the music and start the show officially. We're going to go through everything here. And we'll also talk about this too. Medvedev. They have no brains. They must have very, very bad lives. Medvedev, very upset. Some people out there will say, oh, it's not fair. Rafa won this because the crowd basically made it impossible for Medvedev to win it. It's a bit of a stretch, but we'll even take a look. We'll take a look at the evidence for that case. We're going to make all of the cases here today on the show. But let me just put this out there. There will always be a slight asterisk about this individual tournament, which I don't care too much. A slam is a slam. Many people have said, someone gets injured, a favorite, they're out, somebody else wins. That French Open, what year was it? Right before Rafa won for the first time. It'd have to be 2004. I think Rafa won 2005, his first slam at Roland Garros, the French Open. And Gaston Gaudio beats Guillermo Coria. Some people say that's an asterisk slam because it's so weird. And a guy who, Gaston Gaudio's rank was like 45 in the world or 60 or something like that. But this is different. That's why I'm saying there's always going to be a slight asterisk on this tournament, which I don't care as much about. What I care about is what you saw, the GOAT record. What I care about is now Rafa. It was going to be really hard for him to grab a second Australian Open as long as Djokovic was there. He was supposed to be there. He played all 4 majors last year and almost won all 4 of them unvaccinated. Then all of a sudden, it was a problem this year, and the government forcibly removed him. But I don't think that'll be too big of a deal moving forwards because I think Djokovic will be back. I think the way things are shaking out around the world with COVID restrictions right now, that even if Djokovic keeps refusing to be vaccinated, he'll probably be allowed to play at the French. It looks like right now, as of right now, it looks like they're going to let him play. And I think things will ease up. Tensions will... There'll be less tension around the world, and Djokovic might even be allowed to come back unvaccinated to Australia next year. Wouldn't shock me. We'll see, though. That would be the one where I think maybe he won't be allowed. But the rest of the year, Djokovic is going to have his chances to get back in this thing. But we're talking about the GOAT record, and that's why I was so worried that if Medvedev came out there and pulled a Sasha Zverev, just choked, right? Crap the pants, as we said before. If Medvedev did that, I think it would really cheapen our GOAT race. And if Rafa ended up winning it, people would always point to, he shouldn't have really had the 2 career Grand Slams where he won each slam at least twice because of what happened, how he basically got a walkover when Medvedev choked. But the match didn't go like that at all. In fact, let's look at what Rafa did because it's pretty incredible. Put image number 2 on the screen. Rafa did something very special. He came back from 2 sets down to love. You might say, well, that what's so special about that? Look how many times he's done it in the past. 2006 Wimbledon against Robert Kendrick. I guarantee no one knows who that is. I remember the name just because I've seen this stat put up in the past anytime Rafa's ever been down 2 sets. And in 2007, I remember that match. Mikhail Yuzny. He might be Russian, but he is not. He is definitely not Medvedev. Medvedev is our number 2 in the world. I think Yuzny was top 10, but Yuzny never would have been... I don't even think Yuzny ever got to play in the World Tour Finals, if I can remember. He might have been one of those guys who just barely made it to 10 or 9 and never quite finished the year at top 8 and got to play the World Tour Final. I can't remember ever seeing him at World Tour Finals. Maybe he was in as an alternate a couple times or was in as the 8th seed and I'm forgetting. Anyway, so just that alone, the way Rafa came back and won this, and, Medvedev, it's not like he choked up 2 sets to love. And I don't think you can say the crowd is 100% responsible, but let's keep going. Take a look at these analytics. Now, you might laugh at this robot analytics thing, but nobody thought Rafa would win. I didn't think he would, and these analytics have been pretty accurate. They gave a 64% chance to Medvedev to win this before the match even started, 36% chance to Rafa. And then after Rafa drops the first 2 sets, he had a 4% chance. And, these things, they analyze so much match data. And they're really good at predicting how things are going to shake out. I've watched the whole tournament. They always put them up at the beginning of matches. I watched almost every single men's match there was, a lot of them. At least a set here and there in the early stages when we had, tons of matches going on. And to put Rafa at a 4% chance and Meds at a 96, and then to come back. I mean, look, even at the analytics in the 5th set, when Rafa ties this thing up, he goes to the 5th, and it only is a 1-point swing. Now he's got, instead of 36, he's got a 37% chance. All right, so no one thought, and maybe you're saying, Matt, that's the robot. I'll play it for you a second. It's not next on the list, but I'll play it for you. It wasn't just me thinking Rafa was done. Some of the stuff the McEnroe brothers were saying sounded like they had zero belief in him at that point as well. But take a look at this one. Look at the conditions. Not only is Medvedev very similar to Djokovic, but with a bigger serve, these conditions were not good for Rafa. We know some people have been saying things in the comments like Rafa only made the final because he got to play in the day session pretty much every round of the tournament. Look, they said when Roger won in 2018, his last time, that they set him up with the best conditions possible. There was a big controversy about they closed the roof when he played Cilic in the final. I think that was the final. Anyway, something about they closed the roof to help Roger, making an indoor setting would be better for him than it would be for Cilic. But Rafa had to play the toughest opponent he played in the whole tournament by far, in the worst settings he had to play. Just take a look at this. At 1-all, this is how humid it got, right? The temperature is low, but the humidity is high. These are the worst conditions for Rafa because it eliminates the bounce on his lefty forehand. So look at this. Rafa is sweating like a pig, like a dog, at 1-all. Let's look at another reason why Rafa should never have won this, why I predicted that he had no chance. I never thought it would go to a 5th set. That's the one place where I maybe would have said Rafa has a chance because he's just a sturdier body, even though he's 10 years older than Medvedev. It's good Medvedev doesn't get as worn down because he's so skinny. He doesn't get as tired running around. But those muscles can't, keep producing at the highest level in a 5th set, and that's why he has a very bad 5-set record, Medvedev. And especially against someone like Rafa, who, if you get in a 5th set with him, I know he lost to Djokovic in the 5th set here, 2012 and 2017. Of course, I know very well what happened up a break. Rafa, lost it to those guys. That might have been a mental thing. I don't know. But physically, Rafa tends to look stronger than most other players, 5 hours into a match, especially Medvedev. But take a look at this. Meds is probably the best returner in the world right now, right there with Djokovic. They're I guess you say Djokovic is still the best returner in the world, but Medvedev's had the better results lately going back to the U.S. Open on hard courts. So look at these numbers. Rafa for the tournament, 38% of his serves not coming back. He really worked on the serve. Well, against Medvedev, that number dropped to 14. So one of the biggest advantages for Rafa almost disappears, more than cut in half. It goes from, a lot more than a third, not too far from half of his serves that he hits unreturned, as in the opponent does not put them back in play. Rafa just hits the serve, wins the point. Doesn't have to be an ace. Guys get a racket on it, can't do anything with it, can't put it back in play. To drop that to 14%, that's a big deal. Here's another one. Take a look at this. Medvedev kind of is Djokovic now. You got a great Rafa return. Med sets up Rafa to kill him. And then look at the backhand on the run. Pinpoint accuracy. They hit that short angle cross-court pass, backhand on the run from Medvedev. The only thing missing there is he didn't slide into a split as he hit the shot. But you could argue it's just as effective as what we've seen Djokovic do so many times. Let's look at some more. Take a look at this. This was ESPN threw this thing together. This is exactly what Djokovic does. It makes him so great. And you'll see Medvedev pushing into that baseline, right? Roger Federer does this too. Rafa does it as well. All the great players do this, but Medvedev does it all the time like Djokovic. And you might see, like, sometimes he'll back up a little, but most of the time he's bringing the pressure, and you'll notice the slice backhand that Rafa was hitting a lot of early on. A lot of times it was a little short and allowed Medvedev to come right in and just pinpoint laser shots with that flat ball. You got to realize something, that Rafa, his ball, especially in these conditions, when he goes into autopilot, right, when he goes into more of a comfort zone, that's why he's so good on clay in hot conditions at the French Open that we see every summer in France. Rafa, when he just kind of puts a little more roll on that ball and is maybe a little nervous, not going for as much on the shot, but is always whipping it with a lot. Even if it drops a little short on the clay, it kicks up enough to where these guys got to back up and let the ball come back down into their strike zone. When Rafa drops stuff short, whether you saw with the slice or with his forehand, as you saw in the first couple of sets, Medvedev can step in. And then his comfort zone, same with Djokovic, and they even pointed out Medvedev was hitting the ball a little slower than he had been in previous matches, right? He was being a little careful. All these guys play with a certain level of fear. I have a comment that we're going to talk about later where somebody ridiculed me for daring to say that Rafa plays with fear in his game. You got to realize when I say that, it's a lot different than how me and you might think about fear. It's fear that they've been dealing with for decades, playing tennis matches in front of big audiences, but it's still there, especially in a final. Medvedev lays off on the pace a little bit, but his flat ball, when he takes it early, he didn't lay off on that with the footwork and the court positioning. It does a lot of damage because of this court. This court with a low bounce that's slick and fast, that ball is tough to deal with, and we saw a lot of errors out of Rafa Nadal, especially early, as he did all of that. But here, take a listen. If you don't believe me, listen to the brothers McEnroe talking about how bad things were looking for Rafa.
He's got Rafa right where he wants him now. I mean, he's obviously, but physically now. Rafa, you can see his energy draining out of his body. His head, more importantly, it just looks like he's starting to get resigned here.
Now a chance to get even stronger grip.
Maybe I'm wrong, maybe because I don't know if he's ever resigned, Rafa, but it looks it, or tired.
No, he's tired. He's exhausted.
He's tired, which leads to resignation.
Medvedev's got Rafa right where he wants him. Physically, you can see his energy draining out of his body. His head, more importantly, starting to get resigned. Mentally, Rafa losing belief, not physically feeling the pain of this whole 2 weeks of tennis, whole month, really. Rafa losing it mentally. Now, I don't think he did. And McEnroe, to give credit, John McEnroe after that said something like, well, maybe not. I don't know if he's ever resigned mentally, so I shouldn't say that. I don't know what's going on in his head, but it looks like it. What do you think, Pat? And then Patrick McEnroe, he's exhausted, he's tired. And in that clip, you see another example. Take a look. The point before they say that, Rafa hitting a slice backhand, getting destroyed by Medvedev, moving in like Djokovic. Same stuff we saw. I mean, honestly, the asterisk is disappearing for me after you see how this match goes down, because Rafa comes back against all of that. I know this will anger some people, but the way Medvedev has played, you could have argued maybe he could have beat Djokovic here. He just did it at the U.S. Open. You could say if Djokovic had been allowed to play and Rafa played like this, maybe he could have beat Djokovic here. We'll never know. There'll always be a slight asterisk on this tournament. But what I care about more is there an asterisk on whether or not right now Rafa is the GOAT? And of course, Djokovic will win more, so it's not over yet, as Medvedev pointed out in the trophy ceremony. Pretty amazing. Another reason to point out, though, look at Medvedev again. Flying through the air, right? Playing, this is the kind of point we see from Novak Djokovic. How Medvedev gets back into this point. He's dead. He's able to come up with the defense, turn the defense into offense, a phrase we've heard so much over the years about the big three. Medvedev looking more and more like Djokovic. So what did Nadal do? How did he come back? First thing I noticed, Medvedev started to hit bad drop shots, and Nadal, take a look at these, started hitting incredible drop shots. That one on the far right of the screen, that was not so much a drop shot. That was more like a slice backhand that just angled sharply away. Not super fast, but the angle and the line that it caught, and Medvedev couldn't get to it. Nadal not winning with his bread and butter shots, started coming up with whatever he could. And you saw, Medvedev tried to do it. Both these guys, they stay way far back on the return, but they both are racing to get back on top of the baseline and dictate. Especially Rafa. You wouldn't see him do it quite as much on clay, maybe, although he does do it. But Rafa really doing it here this year at the Australian Open, hardcore, and it worked out for him very well. So both of these guys are doing that. Medvedev, a lot of times would poorly time this drop shot so that Rafa's already moving to the baseline and then just running into the net. He just sped up a little. He didn't have to change direction or anything like that. Whereas Rafa was very good at kind of getting Medvedev to get his weight back and then have to reset and change direction before the drop shot came. It's better executed and better timing with the hands. This is not Medvedev's forte. When he wasn't winning of what he was doing before, he kind of panicked. Coming to net, sometimes it worked, but sometimes, you could see like these are not the things Medvedev does frequently enough to where it's going to work against Rafa the way he started to play after he dropped those first 2 sets. And even in the second set, Rafa almost won that set. He was starting to get things together as early as the second set. Let's go. Look at this. Take a listen to Darren Cahill here.
Still conditions, no breeze to speak of at all, 71 degrees, so the temperature has dropped, humidity has also disappeared. Absolutely perfect playing conditions, and I think that's helped Rafa in the last hour or so.
So these conditions, terrible for Rafa, but we saw him in the French Open in 2020 beat Djokovic, right? Cold conditions. I think there was some humidity there, but it wasn't super high humidity like what Rafa dealt with at the early stages of this match, first couple of sets. But as Darren Cahill points out there, the humidity is dropping, going away. Comfortable conditions. We saw how Rafa was sweating in the very beginning of the match. So when these conditions changed, it made things possible for Rafa. It made it to where he could do more damage with his biggest weapon, that forehand with the topspin. And he started going for it even more than in the first 2 sets. Now we got this. Take a look at this one. Medvedev running up for this short, easy put away, and listen to the crowd. And then you see Medvedev's response to the crowd. And I think at this point, Chris Fowler points out, like, you're not going to make any friends here by doing that. But I don't blame Medvedev. This was pretty horrible treatment from the crowd. And if you're a Rafa fan and saying, Matt, don't make excuses, take a look at this one. They're cheering when he misses the first serve throughout the whole match. But this is a double fault at a big moment in the match. And it's really tough. I know Medvedev is the great tennis villain, and we all appreciate him for taking that role. But I think he thinks, he's playing his part. The crowd is getting behind it, making him the villain. But at the end of the match, they're supposed to appreciate his talent and we stop with the thing. We're playing a game. It's fun. We're here. We want to see Rafa make history and all that. But we appreciate you for what you are, Medvedev. And I think Medvedev's starting to feel like maybe that's not the deal that he thought it was originally. And it's very hard to play with that kind of stuff going through your head. Whether you blame Medvedev or not, I know he brought a lot of this onto himself, but I think part of him felt like he was playing this role like a wrestling match, right? He's doing it for the benefit of the game. It makes the storyline more interesting, and I think he feels like he should get a little more appreciation. Yeah, maybe during the match the crowd will be like that, but towards the end they should be a little more respectful. Take a look here, Rafa asking the crowd to stop, holding up the racket, saying, all right, guys, it's too much. And if you don't believe me that it's a bad thing and I'm just making an excuse for Medvedev, look at Rafa trying to serve it out here. Rafa looks slightly annoyed, and you'll hear the umpire say,
Show respect to both players.
Show respect to both players. Please. This is the pièce de résistance here. Rafa really, really annoyed with this one. Misses this forehand. Someone in the crowd is shouting out, look how angry Rafa looks in the face. That one sucked. And then, of course, Medvedev pleading with the umpire to step it up. Take a listen.
Can you take control? Please? Small please is not enough. Can you step up? Louder. Say it every time. If you have to say it 25 times, you say it every time they do it. After the point, you say it every time. Step up, man. It's the final of the Grand Slam. Step up. Step up. Step up.
Afraid to clutch up the chair umpire. Step up, man.
Please is not enough. They're idiots. With idiots, please doesn't work.
I love that you're dealing with idiots, but step up, man. I mean, Medvedev, you got to understand at this point, and this is where I fault him at all. You got to understand, Medvedev, that this umpire can't do anything. This crowd, this energy. It's a monster. It's carried away. You helped build it a little bit throughout the tournament, Medvedev. You helped build it in 2019 when you flicked off the crowd at the U.S. Open, right? These stories go around the world. Tennis fans know who you are, and you got to get used to dealing with this. I do feel a little sad, though, like I was saying before, for Medvedev, because he probably thinks he deserves a little more respect than what he's actually getting, and it is pretty funny when he says, you're dealing with idiots, man. Anyways, I don't think it's an asterisk right now. I think the way Rafa won this thing, he deserves to be greatest of all time for now until we see if Roger can win another. I know most tennis fans don't think that's possible, but we hold out hope for a miracle to Fed fans. And, of course, Djokovic will be back. I just want to ask you one thing. What if, for some reason, Djokovic isn't allowed to play, won't get vaccinated, isn't allowed to play the rest of the year, and he slams? Or maybe he's allowed to play one, but he's been so far from Grand Slam tennis by the time he gets to play. Say he could only play the U.S. Open. By the time he's allowed to play the U.S. Open, it's been so long since he's played a best-of-5 set match that he loses early. Are you going to feel like it's an asterisk thing then? As a Rafa fan, is that what you want? What I want, and I respect Rafa for this victory, and we all should, I want Djokovic to be allowed back, and I want this thing to play out on its own without government intervention. Not injuries. The government got involved this time, and it was the wrong thing to do, and it's cheapened our sport, our marquee product, the GOAT race. But no fault to Rafa, who we respect now as the GOAT. I saw a lot of people saying, Matt, where's your video? You're so sad that Rafa won. Maybe you didn't hear my statement from last year in Barcelona. Not only am I picking Rafa to win the French Open this year, I'm hoping that Rafa wins the French Open this year.
I fell in love con Rafa in Barcelona. Mi corazón es solamente por Rafa. Tú sabes, mi amor es Rafa Nadal. In Barcelona is where I fell in love. Quiero leer tus libros, Rafa Nadal. Tocar la guitarra por Rafa en Barcelona. Quiero cantar for Rafa, yes I want to. Si es verdad, I fell in love with Rafa. He fell in love with Rafa, yes he did. Solamente for Rafa es el corazón, con Rafa mi amore. I fell in love solamente con Rafa.
It was a beautiful song. Barcelona's a small tournament, so a lot of people probably didn't even see that last year. I love Rafa. I love all three of these guys. I'm happy for Rafa. The only thing I was worried about was that people would treat the GOAT race, the most special thing to me. Every now and then I see a comment like, Matt, why do you care about who's the greatest of all time? It's so stupid. Who cares about the records? It's just about the tennis tournament. Don't you want to see new and young people win? It's such an idiotic thing. This is the best thing in sports. The best thing besides Tom Brady. You'll notice today I'm drinking a Tom Brady smoothie in honor of Tom Brady. Very sad that he's retired. And I'll probably never watch football ever again. My band is playing a Super Bowl party, so I guess I'll watch some Super Bowl while I'm there. But I will not be going out of my way to watch much football because with Tom Brady gone, I've lost interest. When the big three are gone, I'm going to lose some interest. Even though I love tennis so much, I'll keep watching, I'm sure. But it'll never be as magical as it was when I was watching the big three compete for the greatest of all time. GOAT has become a word that everyone in the world talks about. Anyways, welcome to Coffee Break Tennis. Today on the show, we're going to go through some comments now because we pretty much did the whole show already. And that's about it. Let's start off with A2D Souza. I really enjoy everything you have to say about tennis, and I like the bit where you sent the kids out of the room. Oh yes, that was the erection thing from from last show. Towards the end of last show, if you missed it, it was great. It had something to do with Rafa's love for the game. It was an analogy I came up with. But I have to hard disagree on the Djokovic point. I'm not a Djokovic hater. I like all of the big three, though I'm first and foremost a Federer fan. Me too. But no matter what somebody thinks about a particular country's entrance requirements or public health policies, they just can't go around falsifying documents and or lying on application forms. There's a nuanced argument to be had about whether Australia's entry requirements are too draconian. I happen to think they're reasonable, but a case can be made for the other side. I appreciate that very much. We should all be able to debate these things and acknowledge a case for the other side and hear it and not try to have people banned, right? It's very popular now. If I disagree with your opinion, you should be banned from whatever, from YouTube or Spotify. I don't know. Whatever. I like this better. Where were we? But there's just no argument that people should be able to get away with lying on their applications left, right, and centre. Every country needs to be able to enforce its border entry requirements as long as we're going to have countries at all. I agree with that very much. Novak is free not to get vaccinated, but as Rafa said, there are consequences, responsibilities, and restricted ability to travel is one of them. That's very true. I hope the restrictions fall away. It looks like some countries are getting away. They're getting rid of vaccine requirements even to work in hospitals. Masking requirements are starting to go away, and big countries, civilized countries, I think it's not going to be an issue. Djokovic is going to be allowed into most places. It's coming. All right, so great. I appreciate that good comment there, and that we can all have these opinions and debate them. But let's move on because I think I have some people who aren't like that and are very angry. Here's Guido del Gudici. 2016 is an asterisk slam then because Fed did not play at Roland Garros in the U.S. Open. 2017, same story. No Fed at Roland Garros. 2018, asterisk because Fed did not go to Roland Garros. Then, of course, the mother of all asterisks, 2020 and 2021. I don't believe in asterisks. A major is a major. What about the future? The 2030 U.S. Open is not valuable for winner because Federer retired 10 years earlier and Nadal and Nole 5 years earlier. What the F? Journalists are poison for all sports. Is he saying I'm a journalist? Because I've never claimed to be that. I don't want to be a journalist. They're bad. I mean, I guess I appreciate journalists, but a lot of them are kind of D-bags. Making up cases in sports theories, people who can't catch a ball thrown by a kid, judging the lives of elite athletes. Yeah, it usually is pretty ridiculous the way it shakes out like that. But all these asterisks that he's citing here, they're all injuries. This is very different, which is why I make the case. And again, if you deny it now, imagine a future where Djokovic isn't allowed to play any of the majors, and then he finally gets into one like a year from now, and he's all super rusty, and his career is kind of over at that point. Imagine if something like that happened. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was held out of the sport for a year, and then he comes back and wins a major. But my point is it going to be an asterisk then? Because there's going to be so many people who will say, screw, that record is rigged. That record is meaningless. I don't want that. That was my fear. That was the asterisk that I didn't want. I think since Medvedev beat Djokovic last year, it was perfect. If Rafa wins against anybody else, or if Medvedev chokes and just fell apart mentally, it would look bad for this GOAT record. Assuming Djokovic is allowed to compete in the future slams, and this doesn't happen to him again, including next year at the Australian Open, because that's the one he wins the most. So imagine Rafa being barred from the country, not allowed to play in France when it's time to get one more. He's going to need one more at least if he's going to stay ahead of these guys. Ahead of Djokovic, really. It's hard to imagine Federer winning anymore. I could see Federer getting one more Wimbledon. It's possible. We need a miracle for that. Anyways, he says, the 2030 U.S. Open, is it not as valuable for the winner because the big three will be gone? Yes! The Super Bowl. It's less valuable because Tom Brady's going to be gone for me, right? A lot of tennis fans are not going to care as much. It's less valuable in the eyes of tennis fans around the world, and all of us tennis fans caring about these tournaments is what makes them valuable. It's why Rafa wanted to win the Australian Open, because he knew if he had all majors twice, that's a big thing. And of course, Rafa says, He doesn't care about winning. It's for the love of the game. But of course, he wants to win, and he wants to set these records. We all do. We all want to accomplish things that we know are valuable. That's why the nerves go up. That's why players play with fear. I mean, think about 2020, Dominic Thiem. I said at the time, if Thiem wins more majors, it's not really so much an asterisk because of the way Djokovic went out, and he probably would have won the 2020 U.S. Open. But we haven't seen Thiem for a long time. Let's say he never wins another major again. Is 2020 kind of an asterisk when you talk about Dominic Thiem, the Grand Slam champion? Yeah, it's a little bit cheapened. And I don't care about Dominic Thiem's legacy being cheapened a little bit. But I do care about this GOAT race, the greatest storyline of all of sports, being cheapened. I care about that very, very much. Tuki says, Medvedev, a legend, really? From 7 meters behind the baseline? Shame on you. Well, again, look at this graphic. It's just a containment method. You get all serves back. You know, if you can raise your percentage, as you saw that stat I showed earlier, Rafa having 38%, whatever it was, serves not put back in play, it's really easy to hold serve when you have a number like that. Well, Medvedev, the way he returns, he dropped that number to like 16 or 12 or whatever, 14. So yeah, you see in the graph, they make their way up to the baseline as fast as possible. Rafa does the same thing. You get way back. You make that return. Rafa floats it higher and deep with spin. Medvedev lasers it flat and low, deep, without spin, or with very little spin. But they still race to get on the baseline and control and dictate play, because if you hang back there the whole time, it won't work. So this is a shameful comment, in my opinion. You are eliminated. All right, let's go to LV. I don't know why you're making such a big thing out of it. RG 2016 was won by Novak. Would you have bet your house as well that Novak would not have beaten Nadal if he was not injured? No, it's totally different. I mean, yeah, before the draw came out, if I hadn't known anything about a potential injury from Rafa, yeah, I would have bet that Novak would have no chance. So would you. Your comment is eliminated. We don't eliminate people here, but we do eliminate comments. Michael Guimond, I don't get it. Like, how does anyone compare getting injured? You know, that's you. Yeah, a lot of times it's out of your control. And if we're going to talk about GOAT record with injuries, all the times Rafa was injured and missed out on a slam that he could have won, he might have 30 of these things. Who knows? But that's not how it works. That's all on you. You're managing your body. As Rafa says, you know, none of this is owed to us. You don't deserve any of this. You work hard and you do the right things, and you hope that you get a little bit lucky with some stuff. Rafa's been very unlucky with injuries. Having the government remove you over an issue that only became an issue very recently and is a very political issue that is going to be gone in a matter of months, pretty unfair and outside of Novak Djokovic's control. Yes, he could have got the shot, but we know that he has his principles. Does he have to violate his religious principle here? Yes, his health is basically a religion. Michael Guimond, as a Rafa fan, of course I want him to get 21, but not like this, not like this. French Open over Nole would be more legit, no asterisk, right? Michael Guimond, he knows. If Rafa gets this unfairly, no one's going to respect his accomplishment. I bet Michael agrees with me, though, after the way it went down and says, yeah, Rafa earned it. Anyone who wants to say that Rafa didn't earn this one, I'm sorry, but that's a tough case to make after what Rafa went through. And you could make a case that Medvedev could have beat Djokovic this year. The way the way Rafa won, you could make a case that maybe he could have beat Djokovic here. Although there's some stat like Rafa hasn't won a set against Djokovic on a hard court in like 10 years. So that's why most people are going to put asterisks on this tournament forever. I just hope it won't affect the GOAT race. 85 Chica Loca says, do you believe 1/10 of the BS you say or rumors you repeatedly heard said? Seriously, Rafa practices with the same intensity as he plays and has for all of his career, but you think that it's due to him being afraid to hit the ball out during play? Someone would have to have the brain capacity of a goldfish to say something like that, much less repeat such idiocy. On top of that imbecilic notion, it is said that someone from Rafa's camp offered up this tidbit. For real? Look at the characters of the people who are and have been part of Rafa's team. They're not the type to run their mouths. Someone who has a phobia of hitting a ball out does not play tennis, but all right, we get it. Unfortunately, you were wrong. First off, take a look at this. Here's a tweet. This guy, I don't have it on my paper, so I can't read it to you, but he apparently was watching the same exact match on ESPN Plus that I was because he heard the same exact comment. And he has a different conclusion than me. I'm guessing he's not a serious tennis player like I am. But he heard the same thing. You see it right there on the screen. Do read that. But let's go to the New York Times. All I did was Google. I went to you can do this too, La Chica Loca. La Chica Loca. I Googled Does Rafa Nadal hit the ball harder? Nadal hits ball harder in practice than in matches. Something like that I Googled. This is what came up. That was the first result, that Twitter thing. Apparently that guy was watching the same match as me and heard the same thing. New York Times, the endless intensity of Rafa Nadal. From this article, it says, Tuesday afternoon, as is often the case, there is nothing particularly complicated about Rafa's routine. He rallies with his coach, Carlos Moya, a former world number one, numero uno, not long ago retired, who struggles mightily to handle Rafa's pace. The session lasts an hour. It is mostly Nadal uppercuts up the gut of the court and mostly forehands. Fans gasp as they take in the sight of 20 or 30 hard shots struck consecutively without a miss. Balls hit all out. Often far harder than he would in a match. The rally is often followed by haymakers hit on the run. Did you hear that? Often hit far harder than he would in a match. The rally is often followed up by haymakers hit on the run, slicing against the sideline and out of Moya's reach. Listen to this. It's like this again and again. Nadal won't let up. Matt Svilander, 7-time Grand Slam champion, on the grounds broadcasting the matches for Eurosport TV, describes the Spaniard's practice routine as an act of exploration. In practice, not Nadal, he is searching constantly for the perfect shot, the perfect forehand. It's like he always needs to find it, to feel so comfortable with it that emotionally he can take risks during the thumping stress of the biggest matches. Listen to that. Rafa has to find the perfect forehand in practice that he hits harder, as noted by this article here, and tons of places. I've seen this many times before. I'm surprised La Chica Loca, living La Vida Loca, doesn't know about this. She must be new to tennis. In practice, he's searching constantly, quote, he needs to find it to feel comfortable so that emotionally he can take risks. It sounds like, why do you need to be comfortable in a match that you can emotionally take risks? Because you have a little fear in your game. Okay, here's another one. April 12th, 2021. Better, faster, stronger. Nadal's forehand stats in Monte Carlo might surprise you. Craig O'Shaughnessy points out here that Rafa's not hitting the ball as hard as opponents on 12 different matches. He won 11 out of the 12. The one he lost was against Fabio Fognini at Monte Carlo on clay, where Rafa, you would think, would really let the shoulders open up, but he doesn't because it's more about the height on the ball, especially on clay for Rafa. La Chica Loca, I guess, didn't know this. And if she doesn't know it, I assume a lot of people don't know it, so I'm sorry if I'm offending you because you're part of the highest tennis IQ crowd, fans of Coffee Break Tennis, and you already know all this stuff. So let's go through Craig O'Shaughnessy's main findings. An Infosys ATP Beyond the Numbers analysis of 12 Monte Carlo matches from 2017 to 2019 compares Nadal's forehand metrics. 3 years of data here. Compares his forehand metrics to his opponents. The eye test quickly identifies one of the most potent strokes our sport has ever seen, especially at sea level on a clay court. But the stat sheet shows opponents stack up better against it than we would have thought. The 12 matches in the data set below. Here we go. Nadal hit fewer forehands. Our image of Nadal, especially on clay, is a player willing to go to all locations on the court to hit a forehand to rough up the opponent's backhand. But in the 12 matches in the data set, his opponents actually struck more forehands than Nadal did. And then here's number 2, the big shocker, Nadal's forehand speed. Nadal's well known for scorching forehands on the practice court, but not really bringing the same blazing heat off that wing once the match starts. Craig O'Shaughnessy, who's been paid millions of dollars by people like Novak Djokovic to bring his tennis expertise and detailed analytical analysis to the team to help people like Novak Djokovic. He's working with Berrettini right now, I think. They pay him a lot of money for that. So he knows what he's talking about when he says, quote, Nadal, well known for scorching forehands on the practice court, but not really bringing the same blazing heat off that wing once the match starts. Regardless, you would naturally assume Nadal hits a harder forehand on clay in Monte Carlo than his opponents, but it's not what the data said. Hit the music. We're going to get out of here. And then finally, a follow-up to La Chica Loca. SLC 2466 says, definitely was a big as stretch as a Djokovic warm-up to use his hesitant Nadal. To use this hesitant Nadal idea as a means of suggesting Medvedev would be stronger due to lack of fear. No matter, as Rafa went out and barreled through every adversity, vamosing his way to number 21 in a wild, incredibly rich match for the ages, one of the all-timers for sure. I wasn't saying that was why Medvedev would beat Nadal. I was saying that that's why Medvedev almost belongs in the category of big three. He's compared to the other next gen, right? These big three, they've ruined the careers of everyone else in multiple generations in tennis years. When we're talking tennis career years, I was saying that Medvedev, the way he handles fear out there, because they all play with it. They're all human. All these pro tennis players. It might shock you that they have emotions, but they do, just because they get paid a lot of money to hit a yellow ball. Anyways, I think this win kind of symbolizes, as SLC pointed out in that comment, overcoming all the adversity. Nadal has overcome so much. He was never supposed to win anything besides Roland Garros, right? He was only supposed to win French Opens in the beginning. He wasn't supposed to make it into his 30s because of how rough he was on his knees. These were coming from experts like Chris Fowler and John McEnroe years and years ago. I've heard it all. This match shows you the entire career in perspective. The crowd, they love him. He's earned their respect. They didn't like him in the early years at the French Open, but they liked him in other places, and they respect him for what he's done. And like I said, it's like a microcosm of his whole career. This match, he overcame all that stuff I showed you. Rafa's done it again and again, winning on the different surfaces, beating different types of opponents, beating Djokovic, beating Federer, right? Overcoming every obstacle put in his way. He is the Spanish Bull. He has my respect. He should have your respect, even the Djokovic fans. And he is, for now, the greatest of all time. We hope to God that Djokovic will be allowed to play and they won't cheapen and destroy our very special GOAT race. I'm not sure when exactly we'll be back, but we'll be monitoring tennis news. And of course, we will be very eager to see Djokovic when he returns in a few weeks, playing in Dubai, I think is his first tournament back. So we'll at least be back in time for that. And maybe before that when something special happens. Thanks for watching the Australian Open with me. It's been a fun month. And we will see you very, very soon. Don't worry, tennis will be back before you know it. See you!